My thing with Kingdom Hearts is why do they call it a keyblade? It's not a blade. It's a tube. Where's the edge? There's no bladed edge. It's a tube. How does it cut?
It
That's
opens
my beef.
it opens the battle to death. That's so we are back with another podcast. Of course, I have Saximus right here. Sax, go ahead and do the quick intro of who you are.
Yeah, nice to meet you. My name is Jordan Walsh, aka Saximus. In the FGC, I am a competitor, tournament organizer, commentator, and occasionally a content creator on TikTok and sometimes Twitch also.
Fantastic. Thank you so much
Hmm.
for being on the podcast today. I've been wanting
Yeah,
to
thanks for
do
having
this.
me. Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure. I've been wanting to have you on here because you helped me out massively with my last big invitational, and I've been wanting to ask you to do this. I just haven't had time. So it's I finally can get you on here and we can have some fun. But every podcast I start this the same way, where I ask,
Hmm.
"How did you make your way to TikTok?"
TikTok specifically, I mean, I wasn't on it for very long. I'm not a huge creator on TikTok. I don't even know how many followers I have. I don't post that frequently. But you know, it's the kind of thing where like everyone like kind of knew what TikTok was. Everyone saw like what kind of content got posted there. And I had an old partner who was really into TikTok, and them and a couple of my friends kind of encouraged me to get on the app and start making content. Particularly Ghoul, who's a really good friend of mine.
Yep.
They actually got me connected with you and the rest of T3. They make a lot of fighting game content. They kind of encouraged me to do the same. And I had made like a couple silly TikTok kind of here and there, like a couple about politics. One where I did a really bad Ben Shapiro impression just to make
Awesome. I
something
have
really
not seen
stupid.
that. I better go look at that immediately when we're done here.
It's really stupid. It's not good. But then I made one about fighting games that popped off. It did numbers. I think it's at like 9.1 thousand views right now, something like that. Which for the rest of my videos, like it's more than the rest of my videos combined.
Mm.
So then I started, making more fighting game focused content. Um, and Ghoul, who's already involved with T3, got me in touch with you and everyone else, and here I am. Not very glamorous. It's pretty straightforward, but
Um, I've had a everyone has a different story with TikTok, which is kind of crazy.
Mhm.
Do you have another like outside of TikTok? Are you what kind of other parts of content creation do you do?
Um, so Ghoul and I, we actually used to do a podcast about fighting games called Charge Motion. We haven't recorded a new episode since December of 2021. We used to do it like about every couple of weeks, just the two of us sitting talking, shooting the breeze about fighting games. But in December of 2021, holiday season, we decided to take a break for the holidays, right? Because Ghoul was working retail at the time, I was getting started a new job. And then in the first week of 2022 in January, literally the day we were going to record, I get COVID.
Ooh,
And
okay.
I'm bedridden for 2 weeks. And then Ghoul's partner gets COVID, and then Ghoul gets COVID, and then my partner at the time gets COVID, and then at least on my end, everything just kind of got worse from there. So both of us just become way too busy to do it. We are talking about getting back into it, but other than that, I do stream on Twitch occasionally, and most of my time on social media has been on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Um, it's a dumb name.
Okay.
Elon Musk is a dumb man. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know
Okay.
why is he like this. What made him like this? I don't know. But yeah, I spend most of my time on Twitter. So if you want me to follow me on Twitter, it's at 5Aximus because Saximus was taken, so just a number 5 instead of the first S. And that's where I spend most of my time online.
I'm pretty sure I didn't even realize that was you. If I'm correct, did you have an episode where you guys like talked about the absurdity that Pokimane was in charge of Evo as an episode?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
we did an
watched
episode
that
about that.
episode. I remember Ghoul recommended, told me about it, and I actually checked it out. Wild, what a wild world! I've actually known who you are for years now, and I
I looked pretty different then, right? But yeah.
okay. So, okay. The next question I gotta have is,
Hmm.
you're a fighting game fan,
Yes.
clearly. I once again, I apparently missed you at last year at East Coast Throwdown. You ran the Skullgirls
Yes, I
event.
ran the Skullgirls community bracket. I actually just registered for this year's East Coast Throwdown today. I registered
Okay.
this morning and I put in my application for the Skullgirls community tournament. But yeah, ECT wasn't my first major, but it was the first one where I was like actually running something. Yeah, I've run brackets before locally and at regionals and stuff like that, but never at an event as big as East Coast Throwdown. Skullgirls brackets community bracket was pretty small, but it was a lot of fun, and hopefully I get to do it again this year because I loved doing it. I met a lot of really cool people.
Awesome. Well, I will see you at East Coast Throwdown. I don't know exactly what I'm doing there yet, but I will be
Yes, yes.
there.
Uh,
But the question everyone kind of asks is, I'm very interested in like, what is your fighting game origin story? So everyone has a
how do you?
different one, and it's like, so
That's true.
we're talking about
Yeah.
like, what was your first one, the game that got you into it? Did you just get into it a couple years ago? Like, what was the first one from your very like little self, from little Saximus to now? Tell me your fighting game origin story.
From Little Saximus, I mean, I remember seeing Smash 64 on the shelf of my at my local game store and thought, oh, that's the coolest idea ever. Like, I bought it, I played with all my friends because everyone played and plays Smash when they were, but hanging out with their friends. I don't really think I ever became like interested in fighting games like as a specific genre, or as a scene. It's actually really interesting until like probably about the early 2010s, with Dissidia Final Fantasy, the PSP game, and the sequel, or I
We're
guess
gonna
technically
go
prequel,
back to
Duodism.
this, just so you know.
I love classic Final Fantasy. I love
Okay,
classic Final
okay.
Fantasy, and like Dissidia is like this RPG fighting game hybrid, and I got really into it. I put hundreds upon hundreds of hours in both of the games, both of the good games, by the way. I can rant about NT all day. Anyway, um, and because it's a PSP game, the competitive scene does and to my knowledge still does exist, but high barrier of entry just for technical reasons, right? Then in order, kind of a couple things happened. First one was E3 of 2013. They announced Smash 4 at Evo for Smash 4 for 3DS and Wii U. And one of the first new characters they announced was Mega Man. I love Mega Man. I popped the fuck off when I saw that trailer. And immediately first saw that, like, I have to buy this game. I have to learn how to play this game. I have to get good with Mega Man. Um, so that was one. Another one was towards the end of 2013. I got Skullgirls on Steam. A friend gifted it to me. And I've been interested in Skullgirls for a while because I love the Art Deco aesthetic. I love jazz music. I'd be lying if I said the art style wasn't appealing to me. But I had given Skullgirls a try, and I didn't get it, man. I was terrible. The tutorials were really good, but I was really bad. I'm still really bad, but at least I know that I'm bad. I didn't get, like, oh, I would do the tutorials, and like one of them would have me do a super input, like quarter circle forward and two punch buttons. I didn't get it. I thought it was quarter circle forward and press and double tap a punch button, and I was so confused as to why the super wasn't coming out. Like, that's the level I was at, right? So I kind of fell off of it, until I think April of 2014, when the second DLC character, Big Band, was announced. And I remember seeing that trailer and again thinking to myself, this is the coolest goddamn character I've ever seen. I have to learn how to play him. And he was free at the time, so I downloaded him. I hopped into the tutorial, and I was like, "Oh, quarter circle back and kick on the ground does this. Quarter circle back and kick in the air does this. Charge back forward punch does this. Charge back forward kick does this. Super does this. Taunt does this. Okay, this makes sense." And everything just kind of clicked for me.
Mhm.
It wasn't too much later that I learned that Big Band is one of the easiest characters to learn, but at that point, it didn't matter, right? The seed was planted. Um, and I even got my tag from his standing heavy punch. Like, he says Saximum because it's a launcher with a saxophone.
Mhm.
Saximum, Saximus. That's I literally have his character symbol tattooed on my body.
That's awesome.
That's how important that character is to me. Um, and at the time I was living at home. I had taken a break from school for a few years. And in 2014 I went back to college to finish my degree, and I got into a couple Smash tournaments at the time. Shout out to the Mollywop in Westchester County, New York. I don't think they run anymore, but that's the Smash 4 tournament I used to go to. Um, Finished school in 2016, coincidentally about the same time that Street Fighter 5 came out. I thought, this seems cool. I'll get it. Um, Wasted $60. Should have waited. I should have waited. But I moved to Rhode Island in late 2016, 2017. My friends and I started going to Smash tournaments. Havenshine was the local we went to, we still go to, and the rest is just kind of history.
When you say Smash local, do you mean
Mhm.
like Ultimate? Do you mean Melee?
Well, at the time it was Smash 4.
Okay.
I really like watching Melee. Um, I I have no interest in playing Melee, but I like watching it. But as far as playing and
Sure.
competing goes, Smash 4 and then Ultimate.
I am also. a big fan of 4. That's when I
Mhm,
actually like started competing seriously, was in Smash 4, and
mhm,
I just died off because like I took like there was a brief period where everyone kept playing. I just died off and I was just waiting for a game. Injustice
mhm.
came out and I got like really obsessed with Injustice too.
Yeah.
So all my effort went there. And when I died off of Injustice, I actually went back to Smash 4. I
Mhm.
started going back to local to get excited for Ultimate. I also was a low tier like chump. I played Palutena in Smash 4, so like I was playing one of the worst characters, but I was still killing people, and it felt
Yeah.
so good.
I played Charizard for years. I know I know how it felt. Yeah.
Charizard has some nastiness, like that back air. There's some nastiness.
Tipper back air. It's pretty great.
Yes.
Pretty great. Second best up throw in the game. It's pretty great.
So I'm assuming you don't do Smash 4 anymore, do you?
Uh, I mean, I kind of dropped off Smash 4 when Ultimate came out. And I did compete in Ultimate for a while, but I kind of fell off. And I had a lot of other life stuff going on. In 2019, I was working 3, sometimes even 4 jobs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I couldn't really practice anymore. Couldn't really go to locals. And then when COVID happened, everything went online. I decided to put my focus towards games that actually had good netcode.
So the one fighting game, the NRS games and Skullgirls. Those are the only options you
NRS
had.
games and Skullgirls.
That's
Yeah,
the only options
yeah.
you had there. Okay, cool. I guess on the same question is you mentioned the podcast with Ghoul,
Mhm.
but can you give me a little like lowdown of what your content origin story is?
Content origin story. Man, I don't even know. I said occasionally content creator because it's not something that I don't do very frequently. I don't post very frequently on TikTok because I'm not the kind of person to make something new every single day, right?
Mm.
If I'm going to put effort into a piece of content, even if it's just like a stupid 10-second shit post, I want to have a plan in mind, right? I want to have like a vision at the end for what I want it to look like. I can't just dive into a creative process and just kind of see what happens at the end of it. That's just not how I operate. I need to have a plan in mind. And if a plan goes off the rails, that's fine. At least I had a plan to begin with. Um, so yeah, when Ghoul and I started the content podcast, it was originally the Havenshine podcast. Havenshine is the local we went to, and Ron, who is like the owner of Havenshine, he's got in charge of everything. He kind of brought us on because both of us have backgrounds in media. Ghoul had I forget what his degree is, but like, he does a lot of audiovisual work. I used to work in radio. I used to work in theater, right? Um, yeah, so he and I have a lot of between us have many years of media background, so we're kind of a perfect fit for like the Havenshine podcast. And then as things sometimes happen, we just kind of fell off of it, and we decided to rebrand independently as kind of Charge Motion. We don't want to start. We wanted to start it back up again. So who knows what the third or 2.5, 2.5th iteration of the podcast is going to look like when it
Well, if
happens.
you
But
do it,
yeah,
I will definitely watch some of it. I promise
thank
you.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, on that note, I guess if we're not going to talk about that, let's hear more about the tournament organizer side of you, because it sounds like there's quite a bit. So please
Hmm.
let me know how you was that something that you actively went after, or is it something that was like a happy accident?
So the role as tournament organizer, when I first started doing it, it was a role I both stumbled into and kind of appointed for myself. So when back up a bit here, um, 2015, I think it was, I started seeing these Smash YouTubers make videos profiling this upcoming game called Rivals of Aether. This kind of 2D pixel art styled platform fighter that's very heavily inspired by Melee. I saw it. I think it's super cool. I see this character named Greg. He's this big beetle guy that can create his own platforms. That's awesome. So, like, day one of early access in 2015, I buy it, I play it, I immediately fall in love with it. I am still a Crag main to this day.
I know
Um,
very much so. I know.
right, yeah.
I was in the tournament with you. You didn't. I didn't get to face you, but I was behind the scenes doing everything, so I know how good you are.
If you ever want to play, man, just hit me up. I love Rivals. I'm happy to
No,
play.
not,
All
not. I did my fair share of rivals for a while. I am ready to take my break.
right, all right. I see how it is. I see how it is. But when I started going to Havenshine in 2017, um, I I was that person. I was the person who would always bring their laptop and commandeer a spare monitor or TV and hook it up and boot up Rivals and start labbing and not so subtly be like, "Hey, have you heard of this indie platform fighter? It's better than Smash 4. You should give it a try." I was that person.
I did something
Um,
similar. So I got not to piggyback. We did it with
yeah,
like the super bare bones. It wasn't Rushdown Revolt. It was the other bad one.
icons.
Icons. Yes, we had icons.
I I
Uh,
was a beta tester for
yeah, we
icons.
had icons there. We had rivals, and I remember every now and then someone was able to figure out how to like mod their Wii, and we would bring Cartoon Network. What's it called?
Punch Time
So,
Explosion.
yeah, yes, we would have that one too. But everyone
Nice.
would see those, and they're like, "I hate this. Please just let me play Smash."
Yeah, some of the Smash 4 players were like that because I always had my laptop with me whenever I went to events because I would want to boot up Rivals and get people to play Rivals.
Mhm.
So whenever I would have enough people interested in playing, I would always be the one to run the bracket. So I became kind of the Rivals person in the Rhode Island scene. Um, as far as recruiting players goes, I didn't have that much success with Smash 4 players. I had a lot more success with PM players and melee players.
Oh, for
You know,
sure. I would
for
imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for obvious reasons. Um, but yeah, I think the first, yeah, my real baptism by fire was a regional in 2017 called the Establishment. It was in, I believe, West Warwick, Rhode Island. I think it was at like an Italian American club or something. But there was some FGC events, but we were running mostly Smash 4, Melee, and Ultimate. I ran Rivals. 15-person bracket was pretty good. I came in third. But for whatever reason, I don't remember what it was. For whatever reason, we lost our melee TO. They either couldn't make it or they had to leave early for some reason. So Ron, the organizer, came up to me and says, "Hey, we don't have a melee TO. Can you hop in and do it?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" Melee players are largely self-sufficient. They've been playing the game, for a hell of a lot longer than I have. They know the rule set like the back of their hand. In my experience, anyway, you tell them where to go and who to play, they'll figure it out from there. But the problem was we were running both melee and PM. All the players cross-entered, and
Yeah,
it
I
was this
know.
tiny venue packed with dozens of CRTs. Early spring, it was sweltering in there, and I had a couple dozen melee players that I couldn't find because they were all in the PM room. Like there were multiple times when I would look at the bracket and go like, "Oh, I can't advance the bracket because I'm waiting on one match. Both players are playing two completely different PM sets right now." So I was constantly running back and forth between both rooms, sticking my head into the PM room, yelling, "So and so, when you're all set, I need you for melee." They hated me. They absolutely hated me. All the melee players and PM players because I was so annoying, but I got it done. I got it done on time. We all went home at a reasonable hour.
I can relate to that so hard. It's not even funny. Like I ran Bloody Roar and the Five Force tournament at Combo Breaker this year,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
was rough because there was people that were also competing in Dragon Ball, Mortal Kombat. There were people competing in the Mystery Tournament all at the same time. So I had people
Hmm.
every 5 seconds like, "Hey, I'm checking in, but I'm leaving," and I'm like, "Why?"
Then you're not checking in.
Yeah,
You haven't checked
it's
in.
crazy to me that like people will come in and say, "Hey, I'm gonna be late. I'm requiring you, the TO, to hold my spot so I can go play something else." Like, I understand people are trying to get the most out of their buck. You know what I mean? But to me,
Hmm.
it's a little greedy. Like, I signed up for Grand Blue and Melty Blood, right? I
Right.
figured out after the times, oh, Grand Blue and Melty were gonna intersect. I didn't even try to go to Melty. I just ran with Grand Blue because that's the
Yeah.
decision I made. There's so many people that are just like, nah, I'm gonna do both. It's so rude. Like, be
It
a
really
little
is.
respectful to your TOs, man. Like, if there's one thing I could, people have zero respect for the TOs, and this makes me want to strangle them.
Yeah, good players are worth their weight in gold. Like players who get it,
Yes.
players who are patient, because you're gonna mess up, right? Every TO has messed up something, right? Like I once TO'd a bracket for a regional. I think it was an Arcadian. Um, and I had to redo an entire branch of the bracket because I put down the wrong person as winner.
Oof. Yep. And see, that happens. It's an accident, and everyone's gonna
Yeah,
blame
yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah.
But like, first off, you're not getting paid. Like, you're. This is all done to because you want to help everyone. You want everyone to have a good time. You're doing it for free, and like you just want it to be a good time, and everyone for some reason. loves to
Mhm.
be mad at you. It's so weird, and we go back to be the TO. It doesn't make sense. Why do we do this?
We're all a little bit masochistic, just a
It
little bit,
doesn't make
just a
sense.
little bit.
You ran.
But at that, yeah, but at the same time, you get to chew out a player for being a dick. I haven't had to do this in a very long time, but once had to say to a couple players, if you don't quit your friendly right now, I'm unplugging that setup. I don't care about your money match.
I like
Kraken
it.
hasn't even started yet. What are you doing? I, I don't know.
Get him, sex. Get
I
him. Get him, sex. Get him.
I don't like doing that, but
It doesn't
I'd be
seem like
lying if
that. It sounds like you love it.
I don't like the person I become when I get angry.
Mm.
But putting an annoying person in their place, I don't know. I don't know.
There
Let's
is
move on.
there is a sense of, and I know where you're coming from, and the only way I can
Righteous indignation. Righteous
there's a
indignation.
part of like a parental like
Yes.
thing comes over you as a
Yes.
TO where you're like, shut up, sit down and eat your Cheerios, right? Like I don't know how else to describe.
We do not have time for this.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about. There's a responsibility thing that kind of like jumps to the forefront when you have to be a TO, and I
Yeah.
not only understand that, I respect it. I
I,
respect it.
I I don't like the person I become when I get frustrated or angry, and I try everything in my power to stop that from happening. Um, and it always makes me very happy when good players, good respectful players get it. This past winter, I had to TO another Smash regional. 2.5 hours in and out. We were done. Players got it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great.
Yep. I feel
That's why we
like you
do it.
did a phenomenal job. For those who didn't know, Sax was behind the scenes helping me out with the Street Fighter Six Invitational. I don't know what I would do without them. They just nailed it. The
I was happy to do it. There were a lot of moving parts there, and it felt good to be able to kind of direct everyone to where they needed to go. Everyone was outside of one player DQ that was out of their control,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that one issue, everything, uh, from my perspective anyway, everything seemed to go like clockwork. Everyone was really great.
It was I felt kind of bad because we were like messaging like behind the scenes, and I was like, do allow them to the end of losers. You probably already in your mind had a plan, and I'm like, here's a monkey wrench, figure it out. I felt bad, but at the same thing, like I still wanted to give that player a chance, and I'm happy that player is doing better. Anyways, but you started doing Smash. When did you start
Mhm.
like going into? Because I know you did ECT. Is there when did you start going into the Skullgirls and doing all these little indie projects?
I'm trying to think. I think it's largely just at locals. Because FGC is very grassroots, right? Haven China is, in particular, is a very player-driven grassroots. So grassroots scene. So whenever um like a regular Street Fighter TO couldn't make it. Oh, I know Street Fighter. I can TO Street Fighter. It's just being that, like, 90% of success is just showing up, right? And making yourself available. And just for me, just showing up to weeklies every single week, getting familiar with the players and the games and the other TOs, and the more familiar with are with what's happening, the easier it is to step in on into somebody else's role when they can't fill it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So I'd say ECT was probably the most prolific event I've ever TO'd at up until this past T3. So
Sure. All right. Well, speaking of tournaments, which we've been talking about for like 20 minutes,
mhm.
what about your competitive history? Because you you just got second in a tournament this weekend. So
That's true.
start telling me like what was that another thing that you just like you clearly do it for fun, but have you ever like seen it as a possible future?
Um, so I started off as a competitor. I didn't start off as a TO. Like I said, like a TO is a role just kind of stumbled into and also appointed for myself. I do like competing. I'm bad, man. I'm really bad at fighting games.
I don't think
Um,
that's true.
so here's my thing. We just had Rivals of Aether T3, right? I think like 16 players. I came in second, right? Mike, as happy as I am with my results, I'm kind of concerned it was like a big fish, small pond kind of situation because there were a lot of players in that tournament who were very new to the game. Um, I think I'm trying to think back to some tournament results. I remember Shine 2017. I went 2-2, which I view to be pretty good, right? Because if
I
in any
agree.
given double limb bracket, um, 25% of the people in it are going to go 0-2, 25% of the people in it are going to go 1-2. So if you go 2-2, you're already in the top half.
Hmm.
I think that's pretty cool. I
Hmm.
went 2-2 at Shine 2017, but that was only after I was the first match on stream and I got six stocked by an Atlas.
An Edalus?
Yeah, matches on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Link it to me when we're done with this.
I will. I will. Yeah.
um, so you obviously made your way back into Skullgirls. How was that for you?
Hmm.
Like obviously you've been talking a lot about like platform fighters. What was the transition for you to like start jumping like the Skullgirls game, man? Like is like means a lot to you clearly.
Yeah.
how that happen?
Like I said, I was drawn in by the art style because I love the Art Deco art style. I really like jazz music, and it had this very unique presentation that no other fighting game at the time really had, right? But as soon as especially once Big Band came out, and I really like got a better understanding of the game and the characters and the systems and how they all interacted with one another. I realized, oh wait, this game is sick as hell.
Mm-hmm.
This game's really, really good. I still, to this day, believe that Skullgirls is the best Marvel versus Capcom game ever created. Because like the amount of
Don't
freedom
tell
and
Marvel fans that.
I don't care. Get in the comments. Get in the
Just so
comments.
you know, I'm gonna clip this. This is gonna be on my TikTok account. Go ahead.
Boost the analytics of this video. Get in the comments, man. All right. Because like the variable team sizes and custom assists, and like the infinite prevention system, like you think like on paper would stifle creativity because every combo's got to end, right? But instead it gave a greater emphasis on burst baits and resets. So like you as a player on defense, you have to constantly be paying attention to what your opponent is doing, even if you're getting one of your characters just completely wiped off the face of the earth, because you got to watch where their assists are, you got to watch where their resets are, where they're going to drop their combos intentionally. And you can't just mash because if they mash and they burst bait you, then character's gone. Um, so like and like this really unique interactions of characters and systems that I haven't really come across another team fighter that really scratched the itch the way Skullgirls does. Dragon Ball Fighters came pretty close. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite actually came pretty close. I really like MVCI. But I don't know, something about Skullgirls, man.
Uh, I understand what you're talking about with the other two, Dragon Ball Fighters and MVCI.
Hmm.
They're actually great games. They just have like one
Other
colossal
flaws.
problem in their game. You know what I mean? Obviously, you can look at like Dragon Ball. Their online is a slideshow. It's horrendous. And then you have
We're waiting for that rollback, man.
yeah, you remember when they announced it and then just didn't? It was
Yeah.
great. Then they had you have MVCI, which honestly gameplay's good. It's just like the aesthetics of it were kind of trash, and like there's some
Roster's not great either.
yeah like they had a colossal problem. While Skullgirls like is competing with like all these other fighting games, and it's pretty much an infant. If you really think about it, like I would say Skullgirls is like a toddler. If you look at like the big fighting games out there,
Hmm.
games that have been around for decades, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, like Smash, they've been around for decades. And
Hmm.
Skullgirls is just slowly. I'm coming, guys. I'm gonna catch up. I swear. And I honestly
It,
think like Skullgirls, like if there is like the big, like there's the anime, there's the big three. I think there's like the
mhm.
big four, like Street Fighter, Smash, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the fifth one is Skullgirls. It's like I'm getting there, guys. I'll catch up.
So, all right. So here's the thing. During, I really don't want to get off on a tangent here, but like during
Go,
like the,
go on that tangent. Go, go, go.
as soon as I mention what it is, you're gonna wish that I didn't. So during like the recent big patch where they like changed some of the content in Skullgirls, which everyone is still really fucking pissed about. I really don't want to get off on that right now, but people were posting Steam analytics like as like a dunk on Skullgirls, like oh this game only has like 300 like daily players, it's a dead game. If you the viewer watch this, if you genuinely think that's a dunk, you either a know you don't know jack shit about fighting games, and you know jack shit about people who play them, because there are scenes for games that are much newer and much more prolific that would kill for 300 daily players.
Oh
And the
man.
fact that the game has been able to maintain that consistent, devoted player base despite being a decade old and an indie game is a legitimate accomplishment.
It's I think people do not give Skullgirls the credit it deserves when it comes to what it did. Like it be like it was it 2013, right? It officially
2013,
in
yeah.
2013 it came out, right? So
2012, 2013,
it
that
took
window.
it took 10 years for that game to get to Evo. You know what I mean? Which like name another indie game that's been at Evo. I'll wait.
Evo 2022, 2021 is online. There was them's fighting herds,
Yeah, and like
which is
no
Skullgirls engine.
no disrespect to
Skullgirls
Skull,
engine.
no disrespect to them siding girls, but
Same game engine.
yeah, it's Skullgirls I think has is something beautiful, and I think
Mhm.
it's really helped the indie fighting game scene have
Oh
and
yeah,
succeed.
yeah,
Like I don't know if you know, I work with an indie company. Like I'm like their social media man. I've been doing stuff for them for years now, and
yeah,
they look at Skullgirls as like a goal. You know what I mean? They're not looking at Mortal Kombat. They're not, those are AAA titles that are run by like industries now. They look at Skullgirls like that is what we gotta achieve. Like they look at we literally will go through like promotion material Skullgirls has done and try to figure out how we can be able to use it in our same like in our game. You know what I mean? Skullgirls
yeah.
has done something that you haven't seen before, and it's actually I think down the road, I think in a few more decades, we're going to see the impact that Skullgirls had on the community and not just like, yay, Skullgirl fans. No, it's made a massive impact in the FGC. I think people are going to realize that later on.
Skullgirls had rollback netcode before it was cool. A long time before it was cool.
It doesn't have, was it in 2013? How many characters did it launch with?
8.
See, that's like, that is awesome. You know, like the new indie games, they barely launched with like 3 4 characters. They had a full 8. Dude, that's huge. Like, I wish
Yeah.
more like more indie devs will look at what Skullgirls and like you have to the concept of trust the process. Like it, Skullgirls wasn't an overnight success. It took years of building and community building, and Skullgirls
Mm.
did it. And I think if you follow the same path of Skullgirls, you would have the same success with any game you do. Like I don't know if you saw. There's a new game coming out called Drag Her.
I have not seen it.
That is it's a all of the like drag show queens. They're making a fighting game
Oh.
about that.
Oh, that's
They
cool.
actually have the legitimate like they got like the likeness of all of like they like Laganja and like all these famous drag queens. They actually got their likeness and they're good in the game. And I can't wait to play it at Evo. But that's like a game that you can tell like there's the passion behind it in the same way that like you can see the passion behind how Skullgirls did it. Same thing with like Five Force Fighters or Pocket Bravery or like Corrupt. All these indie games that are coming up right now are like they you can see the like passion and the love, and it's such a great thing for the community overall. And I think we have a lot to thank because of Skullgirls for it. Because I don't think if Skullgirls didn't have the success, I don't think many people would even try to take a shot.
Yeah. Quality indie fighting games, especially on PC, wasn't a thing until what wasn't a thing in the early 2010s, and
No, it's not.
now we are spoiled for choice.
Yeah, what was even around back then in 2010? It literally was just Skullgirls, right? Like I can't think of a Power Rangers Battle for the Grid was in beta, right? Like
Battle for the Grid is that old?
it came out in 2017. I
I don't
think.
know. I may have to check that.
Yeah, I do my homework too, but I think at least in early they were trying it out. I think the beta was around then. I could be wrong, but anyways, Skullgirls is way better than people give credit for, and I think we're gonna find out later. To finish up that segment, there we
Yeah.
like some Skullgirls, but okay.
Yeah.
Top 5 favorite fighting games. Go.
Oh geez. Skullgirls, Rivals of Aether. Maybe early, but I'm gonna say Street Fighter 6.
Woo!
Um,
Okay.
it's really good,
It
man.
is. It is.
Like
I
all
understand.
all of the problems with 5 have been addressed. There were a lot of problems with 5 to address. Um, so all right, so
Got
Skullgirls,
3. We
Rivals,
got
Street
3.
Fighter. We got 3. I want to say Smash Ultimate.
Okay.
Oh man, this is hard, man. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning of the video. Dissidia Duodecim on the
Ah,
PSP.
let's talk
There you
about
go.
that. What?
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy 2, but I like the old
Mhm.
school like SNES,
Yeah, me too.
like
Me too. Yeah.
6, 7, 8. I don't mind 9. Obviously 10. Like I played Dissidia, I think a day and a half, and it just sat in my library. So what was it that you stuck around?
So by that time, I was already really into Final Fantasy, especially classic Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 6 is one of my favorite games ever. 5 is an extremely close second. Um, and seeing all of these classic characters that I already loved rendered in 3D, many of them with voice acting for the first time ever, that was really cool to me, right? And because it's a crossover title, um, it's also, in my opinion, a good crossover title because they all interact with one another. All right, yeah. So the problem with a lot of crossover titles, and Smash is actually one of them, is that the characters don't actually interact with one another. Because like part of the fun of crossover titles is seeing these characters from wildly different universes talking to one another and riffing on one another and whatnot. And Dissidia actually did this, right? Because you have all these characters and all these villains. You would first game was one character and one villain from each Final Fantasy 1 through 10 plus an 11 character and a 12 character. And then the sequel added a few other characters. Um, you have all these heroes and villains, again, many of whom had never had official voice acting for the first time, interacting with one another. And I think that was really cool. And it was really fun. Like all the stages were based off of classic Final Fantasy locations, and they were really big. You can run around, you can run up walls, and it's an RPG, so you could try out different equipment builds and stuff, and different move sets. You can customize move sets too. I don't know. It was fun, and I really like Final Fantasy.
Because like it was like RPG, like hack and slash. I guess it was be more of like how would you describe it? Because I remember when I played it, it did not feel like I thought it was gonna be like a Budokai. That's what it felt like it was gonna be. When you watch the trailers and stuff of it,
Mhm.
and then you played it, and it was like this isn't at all what I thought it was. And I think that's what ruined it for me. But
It was an arena fighter, but I think a couple of the problems with it from a competitive standpoint, well, a lot of the stages are really, really big.
yeah,
Like arguably too big. Like I'm just thinking Ultimate Mischief's Castle, Lunar Subterrane, gigantic stages. And also there was no in-game timer, so you could theoretically just kind of run away forever, particularly if you're playing a very fast character. Um, So, but again, there are competitive players for this game. They did find a rule set to make it work. If you can make a rule set to make Smash work competitively, you can make it for
yeah.
Dissidia
I
too.
mean, there's rule sets for like Shrek Super Slam. And like it always there's always someone that will like if you think about it, like speed running shouldn't be a thing. You know what I mean? And people were able to make it happen. So like
Speedrunning's sick.
yeah,
I love watching speedruns.
me too.
Um,
I'm a big fan of like old school Tomb Raider speed runs. I can watch that all day. All day.
no, but yeah, but it was just it was the first time I had ever played any kind of fighting game and thought to myself, this is really cool. I want to learn how to play these characters. Like the characters make the fighting game, right?
Mhm.
That's why we're all here. And having this fighting game with characters that I already knew and liked, and I got to see all these cool abilities in 3D. Like okay, I'm gonna gush for a second here.
Go
So
for it.
for a brief period, like circa 2012, 2013, my tag before I adopted the tag Saximus was Spellblade Dual Wield Rapid Fire. Whole thing very unwieldy, right? Very long, and because that was the name of Bartz's super in Dissidia, because his super, like it became like his like canon limit break, but it was just a combination of abilities in Final Fantasy V that was just really, really overpowered and that players kind of discovered over the years. And it was just like such an iconic thing of the Final Fantasy V job system that Square Enix went ahead and just made it his canon limit break. I just think that's fucking cool, man.
Mm-hmm. I that's actually very interesting you mentioned that because like if they made a new Dissidia, because if I'm correct, the last Dissidia was kind of like it's a continuing type of thing, right?
So
If they made a new one, essentially, what would you like to see them add to? Is what I was gonna ask. So
So Dissidia, they did make a new one, Dissidia NT. It was originally an arcade game, and it got ported to, I believe, PS4. It's also on PC. It's not good. It doesn't feel good to play. It's a 3v3 type thing, right? Um, but they changed around a lot of the characters in ways that just don't feel good. Onion Knight is one. I really liked Onion Knight in the PSP games. He just doesn't feel good to play in NT. They changed how the moveset system works, and obviously, like they wanted to be more competitive focused style, so they removed a lot of the RPG elements, which I'm fine with. But I don't know.
Is it affecting
I
the? It probably. I'm assuming if I may try to take a gander or guess of what you're trying to say here, did it
yeah,
kind of take the soul of the original Dissidia games a little bit away?
kind of, yeah. It's been a long time since I tried to play NT, so there's almost certainly a lot that I'm forgetting, but it just wasn't the same, man.
I don't even
I
know
don't
where
know.
you'd play that. Yeah, like the one I
It's on
played
PC.
the one I played forever ago was on the PSP.
Yeah. So, all right. So there was the City of Final Fantasy. Then they made technically a prequel because the story takes place before the original. The City of Final Fantasy Duodecim, the 012 is written out as, but it also contained the story of the original one. So there's not really any reason to go back to the original. Um, then they made the arcade version, just called the City Final Fantasy, but they later rebranded it as NT. I don't know what the NT stands for, but you can there's I think there's a free version that you can play on Steam with like a limited character selection.
Hmm.
There's also a mobile game which is like a more traditional turn-based RPG called Opera Omnia. I haven't really dug into that. Um, yeah, this whole thing.
Like is I, I'm a huge like my all time favorite game of all time is Chrono Trigger, right? So
Yes, hell yeah.
like I have a huge obvious respect for Final Fantasy and Square,
Hmm.
um, but there's a lot of other Square characters that I think would be cool if they did an actual like regular fighting game with Final Fantasy characters and not in the Dissidia style. I think that would be
I'd
absolutely
be okay
awesome.
with that. I'd be very
Like,
okay with
and
that.
not just Final Fantasy, but Square characters. Like, imagine having Chrono or Luca or Marl or Magus face off
I'd
against
pop off. I'd
Sephiroth.
really pop off.
It, it'd be
Now,
amazing.
now imagine like a Soul Calibur style game because they all have swords, right?
Yep. It'd be amazing. Like, of course,
That'd be
like
really good.
I'd play probably a Chrono Trigger almost guaranteed. But like, there's like having Sid or like
If you throw Sora in there,
yeah, see
you're
what I mean,
golden,
dude?
right?
You had
Yeah.
so oh my god, people would lose their minds. Like
I don't even like Kingdom Hearts, and I think that's the
yeah,
no-brainer decision.
I never got into them. I don't get it. I don't get it. I have no disrespect for people who love Kingdom Hearts. I just never got into it.
I've played the original, thought it was really good. I played Chain of Memories, had a fun time. I played a good chunk of Birth by Sleep, never finished it because it's you have to play the whole game 3 times. Um, then just fell off. It's just too much.
I was homesick when 3 came out. I remember it was cold, and I remember making breakfast, and I you're gonna laugh at me this. I game flied Kingdom Hearts 3 to get to my house, so I got my game fly, put it in, and I'm sitting there playing it. Got it like day one, and I'm playing it, and it there was literally like 50 minutes of cinematics I had to watch before I could play the game. And I know I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but I'm really not, right? And I just don't have the passion that these other. I don't have the Xehanort cloak. I don't have the shirt. I don't have a keyblade in this apartment. It just is not. It wasn't for me. But but
So yeah,
I would
continue. Sorry,
love to see Sora in a fighting game. That's not Smash. I would pop
that's not
off
Smash.
with
Yeah,
that too because that's awesome. Because I
yeah.
know how popular it is. People would love that.
My thing with Kingdom Hearts is why do they call it a Keyblade? It's not a blade. It's a tube. Where's the edge? There's no bladed edge. It's a tube. How does it cut?
Ah, it
That's
opens
my beef.
it opens the battle to death. That's
But it's a blade. It's called a blade.
in
I don't know.
in some of the like I gave up. It's one of those games like do you feel like bad when you don't finish a game? There's a game you're playing like I just don't want to do this anymore and you stop playing it
It kind of depends.
because I
B-
definitely
b-
stopped playing Kingdom Hearts 3.
see, if part of it is like I'm an adult, right? I'm in my 30s. I got stuff going on.
Mhm.
You just don't always have the time for a 60-hour game. That's just, that's a fact of life. Um, there's some games that I haven't finished that I do feel bad about finishing, and I kind of don't want to dive back into them because it's been so long. I won't remember what happens in the story. One of them is actually Chained Echoes, which is an indie RPG that came out at the end of last year. It's this Super Nintendo style. It's fantastic.
Hmm.
The story's really good. The characters are all really memorable. The battle system's interesting. Um, but I finished up like a really heavy story moment that really resonated with me, and then I went out of my way to fight a boss that I was not ready for, and I just hit a wall and I just kind of stopped playing. And I feel bad because I loved the game and I want to finish it. But then I played, and I'm probably going to piss some people off with this, Near Automata, and I liked it.
I
And
didn't
I had a lot
finish
of
it
fun with it.
either.
And I finished 2B's story, and I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely see the appeal, but be hearing that I got to play the game at least two more times to get the full story, I'm good.
I never finished
I'm
it.
good.
Didn't finish it. Didn't.
I like it. It's a good game.
I
I'm good.
this is gonna be a hot. I think most people played that game for other reasons, not because it was. I heard it's a phenomenal
Fair.
story. I feel people
Fair.
played it for other reasons. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so we're
We are way off
yeah.
topic.
All right, so let's talk about T3. You've been
Talking about
you,
T3.
you just joined the community. So what have you been
Hmm.
thinking about the T3 community, the fighting game TikTok community, and like what it's turned into as of late? You've joined at a good time. What are you thinking of us?
I love it here. I think it's really great. All the people I've met and I've talked to and I've worked with have been really cool. Um, you know what it feels like? It feels like an in-person local, but online. Like where you're seeing the same people all the time. You're shooting the shit. You're getting to know one another, support. You're making friends. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it feels good. I really like being here. TOing the Street Fighter Six Invitational was a really rewarding experience because it wasn't just a tournament, right? It was this whole production, right? We had this live stream, we had these two excellent commentators up. Um, so like I used to work in show business, right? I've worked in theater, I've worked in radio. Um, and I've worked as a stage manager before, and I really got it was really good for kind of scratching that itch of like working behind the scenes and making helping make sure the production runs smoothly because I had like a couple dozen players to manage and I had to on the fly put together this itinerary or like you're up next, then you two can play off stream, you play loser of that. I don't know. It has been scratching a lot of very different, seemingly unrelated itches, which feels good for me. And that's just the icing on the cake on top of the social aspect, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because, like I said, everyone here has been really cool and really great to work with, and um, I I commentated the rivals tournament we had this past weekend. Um, the people make me want to stick around. That's what I'm trying to say. Make me want to stick around and do more within the community, which
Yes.
is good. It feels
I'm gonna
good.
let you know. I'm gonna be asking you for help many times in the
I'm
future.
happy to do it.
Yeah,
That's
you do a phenomenal
that's
job.
one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm sticking around to help because I like
Um,
helping. I like being helpful.
what is there like how do you feel about like teaching when it comes to like do you feel like TOing is something that you have to like you just gotta learn or is that something that you feel you could be like you could be a coach and like be do you think you've reached that point where you could be helping someone like the next generation of TOs like the
Now you've triggered my imposter syndrome, man.
well, you did a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you.
If you have an imposter syndrome, I want you to kick it in the ass. So
Okay.
like
Okay.
that's something that I always feel is like there's just like little itch that I always have that I'm like I want to be helping someone also do what I'm doing so they can reap
Mm.
the same rewards I had. Because you mentioned it a second ago that like it was rewarding every time I do like I hate every moment of the build up even when it's live and then the moment it's over that like is like the best feeling on the
There's
planet.
nothing like it.
And I
There's
wish people could understand that. Like I don't want other people to experience the like feeling of having a successful tournament because it feels so good.
yeah, there's nothing like being finished with an event that went really well and everybody had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, as far as like teaching and stuff goes, um, I don't know if that's a role that I would ever actively put myself in. I'm happy to offer advice, particularly new TOs,
Yeah.
like AFAM, who kind of stepped up and
Yep.
put the Rivals tournament together. Um, no, I was offering advice to them, and they had some question about TOing, um, and if anybody's watching this and is kind of curious about TOing and stuff like that, um, I think kind of the advice I would give is I don't want to say it gets easier because it kind of doesn't. There's always going to be some new weird bullshit
Yep.
that you could have never foreseen. There's going to be some jackass player who's going to just be the worst person to deal with. So it's not that it gets easier, it's that you get better at dealing with it.
Yep.
Just like anything else, like you will get better and more confident in yourself the more you do it.
Hmm.
And you know, maybe you'll come up with a few good stories to tell.
Amen to that,
Um,
dude. I could talk about these for hours. Like the
yeah,
worst
seriously, seriously.
players, and like I could tell experiences of players that like said things to other players, and I'm like, you do realize this is a video game, right? You don't have to be threatening people's lives. Like we can chill out, calm down. It's all good. It's all good. The stories are just wild.
Yeah, I was in. I can't remember if I was TOing or playing, but it was Smash Ultimate doubles, and there's a rule, and I'm like 99% sure there's a rule in Smash, where if any player requests for their opponent to change their alt, like their color of their character, they have to comply to it, right? Because some alts maybe on
Yeah.
some stages might be difficult to see. Um, Oh yeah, no, I remember I was playing and I said to my teammate, "Hey man, we're the blue team, they're the red team. You're using the red alt on your character, and I keep trying to hit you by accident. Is it cool if you switch to a blue alt or at the very least not red?" And they were being a real jerk about it. Stuff like that,
Like
right?
it's so it's a video game, man. Like
It's
we're
a
supposed
video
to be
game.
having fun. What are we doing? It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
I wish, but I genuinely want to say thank you, Sax, for helping me with the invitational. You did
yeah,
a
of course.
phenomenal job, and I have some ideas I want to bounce across you
Yeah,
when we're
totally.
done here. But
And another thing I want to say about TOing is that one of the things I love about the FGC is that I've mentioned how grassroots it is, but if you're watching this and if there's something that you want to see, if there's a niche that you believe is not being filled, you can do it yourself. And I don't mean that in like a condescending or dismissive way. I mean that in an empowering way, right? Like you have the power to step up and like create the kind of event that you want to see, right? Not every esport can do that. So I don't know. If
hey,
there's a game you want to run,
yep. Like I ran a Bloody Roar tournament beginning of
yeah,
this
hell
year.
yeah.
Like Bloody Roar Extreme, you know the game that came out 20 years ago. We're running it still, so I don't want to hear people say, "Oh, I don't know." We'll teach you. Um,
That ties into something else about finding game discourse that just pisses me off. It's dead game discourse, like calling so and so a dead game. I hate it. It's pointless. It's literally just my dad could beat up your dad, but with video games. Oh, my game is more popular than your game. You want to know what the threshold is for a dead game? Two players.
and that
If you have
I
less than
don't
two
even agree
players,
with
the game
that.
is dead.
You could have one person promoting that game, and that game is not dead. I don't care what
It,
it.
but like my thing is like if you have at least two players, you can run sets.
Yes. Have you ever heard of Sushi Striker?
I have heard of Sushi
All
Striker.
right, so I love that game. I think that could have been like the next big competitive puzzle game if
Hmm.
Nintendo and the company that made it did the right things there. They did not
Yeah,
make a
it just kind of came out, and then
yep.
Nintendo never mentioned it again.
Yeah, it came out. I love that game, and like I looked online if people were like trying to mod it because if you just like unlocked all the characters and you didn't have to level them up and they just had the bare bones abilities and then you could like play like neutrally. That game would have been fucking fire to play,
Hmm.
and no one
Hmm.
they just didn't do it. Like I almost like want to learn how to mod games for the Switch so I can start the Sushi Striker Sushido
I feel that. I feel
community
that.
because the game was so fun and competitively it has all the aspects of making it competitive. It just didn't do well. I think it.
So
I don't even think it
I
sold like 80,000 games. Like it was.
I feel that so hard. One of my favorite puzzle games is called Cross Sneak Plus. I know it's on PC and Switch. If you ever played Yoshi's Cookie, I think it's on Super Nintendo. It's the same kind of style game where you have to with big square of colors, you have to make crosses. But it's got this really, really slick like Y2K aesthetic with all these like bright colors and moving backgrounds and stuff. And it has a versus mode, and it's a lot of fun to play. It doesn't have any online.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's see that's what I'm talking about. Like there's so many chances for these games to blow up. Like I almost like want to start learning coding and learning like game design so I could take these games
Mhm.
and turn them into it because they have potential. Like there's a full scene for Mario Sluggers from the N64 right now. So like
Yeah,
when people say that there's like dead games or like there's not a scene for something, you're wrong. Like you're so wrong.
you're wrong.
like
You're looking in the wrong place.
Yes, 100%. And if you need help finding those communities, head to T3 and Stray will play with you. Does not matter what it is, Stray will play it with you.
Seriously, seriously.
Okay, so Sax, can you please tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes, I spend most of my time, to my own detriment, on Twitter, twitter.com/5aximus, again, because Saximus was taken, so just substitute the first S with a number five, so 5aximus. I'm also on both TikTok and Twitch, Saximus on both of those places. Um, I don't stream that often. Actually, I'm going to tie this back to something we talked about earlier. Most recent thing I've been streaming is actually Final Fantasy V, because every summer I do the Final Fantasy V 4 job fiesta, where you play through the entirety of Final Fantasy V using only 4 jobs to raise money for charity. I think it's for the Trevor Project this year. I'd have to double check that. Um, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm still stuck in the first act of the game, but I have
Okay.
until the end of August to finish it.
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, twitter.com/5aximus on TikTok and Twitch. I am Saximus on both of those platforms.
Good stuff. All right, so the question I always ask to finish these up, these
Mhm.
interviews, and it is very simple. What does the FGC mean to you?
FGC, it's what the C stands for, community, taking care of each other, right? Um, we may come for the games, but we stay for the people. I've made some of my best friends through fighting games. I've met some of my partners through fighting games. I have traveled all over, met people that I otherwise wouldn't have just from going to events. Um, and yeah, we compete. We are facing off against one another in the game, but we're all doing it together. And we are here to look out for each other. We're here to support each other, and um, sometimes supporting each other means stepping up to run events if no one else is willing to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you play tabletop games, it's like being a DM for Dungeons and Dragons.
Dude,
People not
so
always want to do
relatable.
it, but someone's got to do it.
So relatable.
Uh,
Oh my god, that's the most relatable thing I've ever heard. Being a DM and a TO are the same thing. Oh my god, how have I not thought of that? That's
I'm also a
genius.
DM. I'm
Oh,
also a DM. So same hat, just different color.
yeah. Oh my god, that should be on like I don't know, a bumper sticker. Like being a
It
DM,
really is a very similar skill set too,
yeah.
right?
You have to deal with bullshit. You got to deal with people wanting things that they and feel like you are responsible for their happiness. And
Hmm.
but Sex, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of
This was
course.
an absolute blast to chat with you. And is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I figured I'm not a huge content creator, but I figured I would give some advice to aspiring content creators out there, if that's cool with you. Number one, I know everybody says it, but it's really true. Make the kind of content you want to create. I mean, sorry, make the kind of content you want to see, right? Because if that's how you know it's going to be genuine. If you're not putting your heart into what it is you're creating, it's not going to be good, and you're not going to have fun doing it. Number one, that's number one. Number two, um, is if I'm gonna get up on a soapbox here for a second. If you are a marginalized person, I'm trans. Surprise. Here's the pin. If you are a marginalized person, or you call yourself an ally to marginalized people, or you even just have somebody in your life who is marginalized whom you care about, um, do not feel any shame whatsoever in curating your audience. If someone's being weird in your comments, delete those comments. If someone's hopping into your Twitter mentions, be like, "Oh, you got to debate me," block them. Who gives a shit? Get them out of here. They do not deserve your time. Not just create the content that you want to consume, curate the community that you want to be a part of.
Mhm. One of my favorite buttons ever is the "I don't want to see this anymore" button. I use it
It's a good
constantly,
button.
and like they're always new dummies will always show up in your comment section. That's always going to be the case. But I usually have learned to just ignore it. And as
Yeah.
someone who's been doing content for a very long time, Zax is 100% right. Another huge to caveat to go off of that, just understand they're not personally attacking you. You gotta understand if you take it to your heart that they're going after you, like they're probably just an evil person on the internet. They're gonna go do what they said to you. They're gonna go do it to someone else in a different comment section 2 seconds later. So it's not just you. Like and like if you because they're the bad comments will always come. If you take every single bad comment to heart, you're just gonna quit. I know it sounds
Yeah.
really grimy, but delete those comments and persevere. I agree
Yeah.
100% with you there,
Yeah.
Sax.
And important thing that to keep in mind for a lot of people is that ever since I came out as trans and started actively transitioning and presenting myself the way I want to present myself, my skin has gotten a lot thicker because it's kind of had to. But thick skin is not synonymous with invincible skin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even the most thick-skinned person can get worn down
Mm-hmm.
by enough bullshit. Death by a thousand paper cuts, right?
Yep.
So just like there's no shame in kind of deleting shitty comments or blocking shitty people, there's no shame in taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
If, Take care of yourself, please.
Yes.
If that means taking a step away, not just from content creation, but from fighting games, that's self-care. You got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take care of yourself.
Oh man, jeez. Out of curiosity, like,
Mm.
since you're a trans person, is there any
Mhm.
like, have you felt like the FGC has been like beneficial, not beneficial, for you, or?
Um, in my experience, yes. I've been very fortunate. I live in Rhode Island, decently blue state, decently progressive area. I have been harassed on the street, which is kind of a whole other thing I don't want to get into. But within the FGC, yes, and I think a big part of that is there was already so back up a bit. I came out as trans and started hormones a little over a year ago, in July of last year. And by the time East Coast Throwdown, which I believe was in early September, I was still presenting as male all the time. Um, I think like December at a regional was like the first time I like presented as fully feminine or as as feminine as I care to present. And there are a lot of openly queer and trans people in the FGC, and um like the two really big ones that come to mind for me are Ricky Ortiz and Sonic Fox, right? I think she started transitioning in like 2013, 2014,
Yeah, it was
in
forever ago. Holy crap! Yeah, it
yeah,
was that far. I remember when all that went down too. It's been a long
yeah,
time. I'm getting old.
yeah.
I hate that. But go ahead.
and,
Sorry.
and then no, it's fine, it's fine. And then Sonic Fox is Sonic Fox, right?
Yeah.
Um, even like not just them. There are so many other trans players and content creators. Just like off the top of my head, Romula, Control Alt Cookie, Ricky Hirsch, Magi, Vicky Viper. I could go on and on and on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the idea that I would could be out as openly queer, openly trans in the FGC and not find some place that would accept me. That thought never really entered my mind, right? Because there were already these other trans people who were out living openly as their authentic selves who were still part of the community. And it 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 can be scary. So this is why so many progressives say that representation matters and visibility matters for marginalized people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're like, let's say you're going to a fighting game tournament and you are trans, you're openly trans. If you're the only one there, it can be kind of nerve wracking, right? It may feel like you're painting a target on your back, and depending on how chill or not chill the scene is, you may actually be painting a target on your back for harassment. But if there's half a dozen there, suddenly you got some friends, right? Like you got people who can rely on, and like your presence in the scene is more normal. It's less weird, and yeah, I've that's not to say it's been a complete. It's not to say it's been completely good. I'm very cavalier with the block button on Twitter. And I don't use block lists, by the way. So if you're watching this and I have you blocked on Twitter, it was for a reason. And I'll let you figure out what that is. Just don't bother me about it. Um, uh, Bridget, uh, being added to Strive last year, I think that was a very revealing moment in how far the FGC still has to go. Because I even just like a couple weeks ago, I was up at Boston Bluebeat, which was an FGC regional up in Boston. Had a great time. But I sit down for some Guilty Gear friendlies after brackets ended. I'm playing, and the guy I'm playing just constantly misgendering Bridget. I'm like, come on, man, it's been a year. You're sitting next to a trans person. I was wearing a dress.
Mhm.
I had makeup on. Like, come on, man.
This is gonna sound
Yeah,
so
but
bad on my thing. Bridget's a she, right?
yes,
Okay.
Bridget currently uses she, her
I don't play
pronouns. Yes.
Guilty
No, that's fine.
Gear.
That
Like,
that's totally fine.
she's a cutie. I can tell you that. Like, she's
Yeah,
adorable. um,
yeah.
because I do remember reading her like her lore, like 5 years ago, and it's clearly been retconned to a certain extent now.
So here's the thing. Uh, and that's what a lot of the hate. I'm not calling you a hater, but that's what a lot of the haters say too. It's not a retcon. It's a continuation of the story. Because like,
Yeah, see, yeah,
yeah, retcon, short for retroactive continuity, is when a new entry in a long running series uh, introduces lore that not just directly contradicts what came before, but supersedes it, right?
mhm.
Like Star Wars. Star Wars got bought out by Disney, and now like I believe all of the extended universe stuff that was made when George Lucas still owned it, all that's non-canon now because it's been retconned by the new stuff that Disney has made. Another example is one that kind of grinds my gears, honestly, is Fallout. In the lore of Fallout, the drug jet did not exist until right before the events of Fallout 2. So
Mhm.
for Fallout 1 and pre-war, it didn't exist. But Bethesda buys a series, Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 came out, suddenly jet existed pre-war. That's a retcon. Bridget being trans, not a retcon. It's a continuation of her story.
So,
It does not contradict anything that
all
happened
right. So
before.
if I'm correct, I think the lore was something that like they in the village she's in, like
So
they had to like
in the village she was born, there was a superstition around male twins.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So her parents, dressed her in girl clothes and she presented as female. And according to the lore, her parents hated that they had to do this. They did not want to
Yeah.
do this, but they felt they had to do it for her safety. Bridget was fine with it one way or another, and she was a bounty hunter, right? Like her whole
The
thing.
yo-yo kills me.
Eh,
Kills
yeah,
me.
bounty hunter with a yo-yo and a possessed teddy bear, named Roger. And she was a bounty hunter. And if I'm remembering Guilty Gear lore is fucking
So if
dense,
you
man.
mean by continuation, so I'm assuming when was the last game she was in before Strive?
Plus R,
So
Guilty
if
Gear
plus R,
XX
I'm
Action
assuming
Core plus
since
R.
then she just made the decision to like this is how I'm gonna identify, and that's what you mean by continuation.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, yeah. So it's like the thing is like she's a bounty hunter, right? And she wanted to be a very prolific bounty hunter so that she could financially support her village, and she did so. She proved herself as a bounty hunter. She dispelled the superstition around male twins, so on and so forth. And like the whole thing about her story in Strive, if I'm remembering correctly, because again, Guilty Gear lore is fucking bonkers. Um, like she did all that, she did everything that she set out to do, and she's still not happy, and her whole story in the tribe is figuring out why, and she realizes and comes to terms with the fact that she's transgender
Yeah. I
and
know
is
it.
happier. Yeah.
Someone had to correct me years ago about La Diva in Grand Blue. I didn't know about that one either. I just like
Yeah.
the beard threw me off, obviously. So I I would say he all the time. And then someone said it to me in one of my YouTube videos. Commented like it's actually a she. And when I did the homework, I'm like, God damn it.
So I don't play Grand Blue. I play Grand Blue Fantasy Versus a little bit, but like the gotcha game I don't really play. But from what I hear, Ladiva's actually a really interesting case because she is also trans, but she still has her male body. And from what I remember, I could be remembering this incorrectly. There's another trans character called I think it's Cagliostro. She's also in Versus, who's also trans, and she's like this alchemist,
Mm-hmm.
and like she used like magic or alchemy or whatever to physically transition herself to give herself a feminine body. And I think the two have this interaction in the gotcha game where she makes that offer to Ladiva, where she says, "Hey, I can turn I have the power to turn one thing into another. I can turn the masculine into the feminine. If you want, I can give you a feminine body." And Ladiva says, "Thank you for the offer, but my but no thank you. My parents gave me this body. They have been very supportive for me, but very supportive of me throughout my entire life. I want to use this body as my way to continue honoring them." So it's really interesting trans representation, right? I love Ladiva. I think
I
Ladiva is a really cool
absolutely
character.
adore Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and it's the first time I'm hearing this story. It's actually fucking awesome. I wish I knew
Yeah.
more about this. I will say this:
I heard it secondhand. I could be getting it completely incorrect. I'm sure the comments will correct me
I
on
need
this,
you to
but
know
whatever.
I hate both of those fucking characters, by the way, because one's the grappler, the other one's the zoner. So I hate fucking both of those characters. But as like lore, they seem cool. As
I mean
mechanically, I
Fairy. I'm
fucking
so
hate those
sorry. I mean
characters.
Fairy.
I
I
don't.
mean Fairy.
Fairy is more of a mid range. She's not that scary. She gets it like
To,
her like I know how to deal with her. I've faced enough fairies to learn how to deal with
okay.
her. But
All right.
Grand Blue's like for a while there was like the only game I played. I fucking love that game.
It's a good game.
Yeah, too
It's a
bad
good
they
game.
just ruined it. But yeah, but when it comes to like the
Yeah.
representation of the trans community with the FGC,
Mhm.
like I know that I have definitely noticed there's been an uprise of it where it kind of seems like my life is an RPG. I'm going to use him as an example. He made a great
Yeah.
point about this. Is we don't accept people that are like rude. You know what I mean? It's one of the things about the FGC. We take care of our own. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And if you're being a dick, we don't welcome you here anymore. So like,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I really love about the FGC. So it makes me happy that like it at least you can feel welcomed and like comfortable in your own skin when you're hanging out with us and stuff. That makes me feel phenomenal. That like you feel like you have a home, because there's definitely been times I felt like I didn't have anywhere to go, and then I can just go hang out with my fighting game friends and things just feel a little bit better. So
Yeah. That's that. I don't know. I don't know what more I can add to that because it feels really good for me too. Because I'm not out at my job. It's not safe for me to be out at my job, and the fact that there is a space, a social space that I can go and do my favorite hobby and interact with people who like me for me, no matter how I present myself, that feels really good. Support your locals, by the way. Go to your locals. We didn't really touch on this, but go to your locals.
this is gonna be the bonus section.
Yeah.
There's times I've stepped away from months. I shouldn't say that as a fighting game. I shouldn't be saying that. But I'll be behind here playing like Horizon Zero Dawn for 3 months and not playing a single fighting game. I talk about it every day. But
I
need to
just got
breathe.
I just got Tears of the Kingdom, and
What?
I haven't booted up Street Fighter 6
Yeah, like
since.
I just need it. Sometimes you just need a breather from it.
Yeah, you do.
It keeps your mind straight. But
Yeah.
so yeah, we've gone on for over an hour. Sex, thank you so much. This has been a blast, and everyone, make sure you go follow Sex, and we'll talk to all of you soon.